Hi, everyone. Welcome to the show. So, today we have a very special guest. I'm super excited about it. I'm here with Veronique and Stephanie Keith, the founder of Law of Attraction Tribe. She was also my coach for, I would say, like more than 6 months, right? Like doing different programs and everything. And it was awesome. And so now we have the honor to have her here to talk to us a little bit about law of attraction and other things. How are you, Stephanie?
I'm good. Thank you so much for having me on. I'm so excited. I'm so excited you started a podcast, and I'm really honored to be here.
Right? Yeah. And I know it's always like so hard to make that move, like to just like, okay,
Mm.
gonna put your face out there.
Mhm.
And now I think we go through phases too, that it starts very like a lot, very insecure, and then like, okay, now I'm gonna go for it. Like you go through those waves, those phases. And
Yep.
now we're feeling better, about this whole process. So glad
Yeah.
to have you here. So
Mm.
the first question is like, what made you make that shift from 9 to 5 job to starting your own business? How was
Yeah.
that? Like what triggered
Yeah.
you?
So, I was in the 9 to 5 job for like 12 years before I actually left. And on my
Mm,
30th birthday, that was kind of like the moment where I just made the decision that I was absolutely done. I didn't want to do this for the rest of my life. And what had happened was we had just moved to Tampa right before I turned 30. And so I didn't know anyone here, didn't have any friends yet. Um, and I was alone on my birthday, just feeling sorry for
mm,
myself, having like a pity party kind of thing. And I looked back at my 20s and realized that I had spent what everyone says is supposed to be the best years of your life. I had spent totally dedicated to my job and to being a mom. But outside of that, I had nothing. I had lost my identity. I didn't know who I was if I wasn't just a mom or this, corporate saleswoman. I didn't really have anything else. I didn't make time for friends or hobbies or interests or passions. And I just kind of realized that. And I thought, I don't want to go through another decade of my life, let alone another 30 years, not really having anything for me. And I started like that night just doing so much soul searching, when you kind of like go down that rabbit hole of like asking yourself all of these like super deep questions. And
yeah.
at the time I just had my oldest daughter. I didn't have the other two yet. And I just remember thinking, what kind of legacy do I want to leave for her? Because right now, like,
Mm.
what would she think? Like, if I, God forbid, I passed away or something, what would I be leaving here in this world? Like, what would people say about me? What would
Mhm.
my daughter think? Like, oh, I was a good 9 to 5 employee, you know? And
Yeah.
I just knew that there was so much more that I was put here to do. And at that moment, like that night, I knew that someday I would write a book. I didn't know
Mm.
what kind of book. I was never like into writing, but I just knew that before the end of my life, I will have a book out there because that would be a way that I can leave my mark on the world and like leave something that'll be here long, past me. So I kind of went through that like shake up that night and just made the decision like, I don't want to be this corporate employee anymore. But I was in a situation where I was the breadwinner. I had a mortgage, car payments, a child, a husband, like all dependent on me. And I couldn't just quit my job. So I started to just make a list of like things that interested me. And I was super, super into the law of attraction. Like, that was really the one thing that I did fully dive into. It was like any book or YouTube video or like anything I could find on it. I loved it. And I knew that it worked because I had used it for so many different things in my life, like manifesting my dream home and my move to Florida and all kinds of like promotions and things in my job. And so I just kind of looked at it as like, I'm going to use this to really help me find my purpose and manifest my way out of this situation that I don't want to be in anymore. And a few weeks into it, I was putting my daughter to bed and I just got this like clear, download that you need to start talking about the law of attraction on Instagram. Like right now, I need to
Wow.
start this Instagram page and I just need to start putting it out there, and enough of being afraid of what people are going
Mm.
to think. I'm just going to do it.
Mm.
And right then and there, I just opened up my phone and I went on Instagram and I started the page and I posted something. And it was really scary. Like, I'm not a very outgoing, extrovert. I'm more introverted. So it was terrifying. And I just told myself, I'm going to see how it goes. And by the end of the year, if I don't have 1,000 followers, then I'm done. Like, that was kind of my message to the universe. Like, this is my, what's going to keep me going or not. And I
Mhm.
ended up hitting that very first month. And so I
Wow.
Oh, wow.
knew, okay, like I felt like that was a clear sign that I should keep
Yeah.
going. And it was also the first time that I found other people that were interested in this, because this was like before manifesting became this trendy topic
Mhm.
that you see everywhere. And
Mhm.
so, in my real life, I was kind of like the weird one, the woo-woo one, and nobody really understood it or was into it. And so this was the first time I started meeting people that were very interested in it and believed in it and wanted to utilize it. So it just kind of naturally grew, and it was very much like a hobby at that point in time.
What year was
And
that? What year?
this was probably like 2015, 2016.
Oh, okay.
So this
Yeah.
was like a while ago that I
Mhm.
started that page, and it was like totally anonymous too. Like I wouldn't put
Oh,
my
yeah.
face out there or anything. It was just like law of attraction stuff. And so I did that for a little while. And then it got to the point in my corporate job where I was so miserable, I was having panic attacks. Like, I had this new boss, and I still don't know why, but like she just did not like me, and she made it
Oh.
known that she would do anything to try to fire me. So it was just like I
Yeah.
felt like every time I went to work, I was being interrogated by the FBI or something. It was very intense.
Yeah. Been
And
there.
yeah, I know. I feel like so many people go through that,
Mhm.
And it was very hard though to quit, because it was a high paying job. I had a company car. I had all these really insane benefits. And so it was like I couldn't just bring myself to walk away from it. And so one day, it was the day that I went to the ER because I was having panic attacks, and I thought
Mm.
I was dying. I didn't know it was just stress related.
Oh my God.
And on the way home, like I was in my car and I just said out loud to like the universe, to God, I was like, I need to leave and I can't bring myself to do it. And I need a sign. I need like a very crystal clear sign that now is the time to leave, and that everything will be okay, because I wasn't making any money really in my business yet to make up for my income. And so I put that out there, and I found out I was pregnant,
Mm.
which was
Oh.
something that I my daughter was 10 at the time, and I didn't think I would have more kids. Like, we tried and tried and tried and tried, and it just never happened. And so the moment that I knew I was pregnant, like the split second I knew, I also knew that that was my sign, and that I would leave on maternity leave and never go back.
Oh,
Yeah, I knew this
Uh-huh.
would all
yeah.
happen. So, I'm getting closer and closer and closer to my due date, and like my coworkers and my friends and everybody, they were like, "Well, what are you going to do? I mean, do you have a plan? Like,
Mm.
is your business, taking off yet?" And I was like, "No, but I just know everything's going to work out." And everyone's like, "What are you talking, like, this is so crazy."
Mm.
But I just knew, like, I had this deep, deep knowing that I would be okay, and that I would never, and I made the decision. I was like, I will never go back. Like, I don't care what I have to do. I'm not going back to that environment. So I was in the hospital. I just had my daughter, and I'm still in the hospital, and I get this email from, she wasn't really even a friend. She was like an acquaintance that I had met on Instagram around the time I started my page. She was starting her thing. And she sent me this email and she was like, "Hey, we have an investing like funding and we want to hire someone full time to help us with social media. Will you do it?" And I was like, "Oh my gosh, well, I just had a baby, but like if I could work from my phone like any hours, I will do it." And she was like, "I don't care where you work or how long you work. I just want it done." And so they let me just do my own schedule and do my own thing, and it totally made up for my income. And
Wow.
this was like, I was like, the universe, like, never in a million years would I have predicted that something like that would happen, you know? And so, anyhow, that particular job turned into sort of like, I just kind of not took over the business, but I did everything for them. Like, I got my hands in everything, and it was such a great, like, learning experience. And two of the things that I had to do was get a podcast started and get an app developed. And what had happened was the team that was supposed to develop the app was taking forever, and it was just really getting on my nerves because like nothing was getting done. So I ended up in one weekend, I created my own app for my business in one weekend just to
Oh,
show them, like, "Hey, we can get this done. You guys, this is ridiculous." And so then I ended up creating their app as well. But then I was like, well, wait a minute. Like, I just created a whole app in a weekend. Why can't I have this as my business?
Hmm.
And so then I really started to like take everything seriously and kind of see that I could make my own money and I don't have to rely on a boss or like a company anymore, that I could actually create my own income. And it happened just like that. It was like I had that realization, I had the app, and that was really when the consistent income in my business started flowing in, and it just went from there. So I know that was kind of a long explanation,
no, it's
but I
great.
think it just like it highlights that when you have like the vision and the intention and you trust the universe or God or
Hmm.
source, like you just trust that if you put it out there, the path will reveal itself. It will. And it'll happen in the
Yeah.
most incredible way that you could never possibly, have thought of.
Yeah. Wow. Because just like the way it's like God showing you now this is gonna happen. So you're gonna, you're gonna get pregnant now. You're gonna be
Mhm.
offered this. So everything for you to prepare for your own, to have your
Yeah.
own business. If you're watching, if you're paying attention, you're gonna grab it and do it. But you can't ignore it too, right? And miss an
Yeah.
opportunity.
Yeah,
Wow.
exactly. And it's like, I know when people hear about the law of attraction, there's like two sides of it, right? Like some people think, well, I could just sit on the couch and just think about what I want and it just happens. And it's like, kind of. I mean, for me, like I literally was laying in the hospital bed and I got that email that changed my whole life, you know? But you have to take action on the little breadcrumbs that you're getting from the universe or the opportunities that show up. And I think that's where the disconnect is, because people will get opportunities, but then they'll let fear hold them back. Kind of like you were
Hmm.
talking about with the podcast, like how it was so scary to get started. Some
Yeah.
people just never get started because the fear and the limiting beliefs hold them back. So you do have to act on those opportunities as they're presented. But I feel like when you get to that point where you just make the decision, there will always be an opportunity that shows up. Every single time I've ever
Mm.
done that, like something happens to where my problem is solved, my solution is given. So it's just opening yourself up to that possibility.
Yeah, see
Uh,
what you mean.
that's kind of my long explanation for leaving the corporate world.
Veronique, you have a question?
Yeah, so I wanted to know, can you tell us, because so I downloaded your app, Manifest Now, and I'm really enjoying it. Can you give us an example, for instance, of a sign, because you're talking about signs?
Mhm.
that you saw from the universe, and
Yeah.
that would tell you, okay, this is I have a big decision to take, and you saw that
Mhm.
sign saying, okay, this is it. Do you have an
Oh my
example
gosh.
of that, like
I have
something
so
we
many
can?
examples of that
Okay.
because that's like one of my favorite things to
Hmm.
tell people to do, especially if someone is skeptical, because I just look at it as like a science experiment and try it, and your sign will show up. Like if you ask for a
Mhm.
sign, I feel like you get the answer.
Hmm.
Um, so the first time, the very, very first time that I did this was right when we moved to Florida because, we had just moved and it's a big change moving across the country, especially
Yeah.
when you have kids and like their whole environment has just changed. And I just remember like having this doubt and thinking, did I really make the right decision? Um, should we move back? Like it was kind of like this panic, like what if this was the wrong decision to make? And I was out on a walk and I asked for a sign. I was like, I need a sign to know that this was the right decision and that we should stay and that like everything will work out. And I randomly just picked a rainbow. And I saw a rainbow while I was on that walk and I started seeing rainbows like every day. But
Hmm.
then I thought, well, this is Florida. Like there's always rainbows. It's always sunny
Yeah.
and rainy at the same time. So I was like, does that even really count? Maybe not. And I started with that doubt again.
Mhm.
And
Hmm.
when I went home, I had bought these crystal lamps that were sitting on my side tables. And the way the sun was coming in through the window and hitting the lamp, it made these like rainbows all over my whole entire room. And I just walked in and there were rainbows all over the wall. And I was like, whoa, like
Yeah.
that is
Hmm.
definitely my sign. And so then after that, I just started using a feather. I don't know why I switched it to a feather, but a feather was sort of like the sign for my business and like if I'm on the right path, if I should move forward. And I started seeing feathers in just the weirdest ways. Like this happens all the time where I will open the front door and on my front doormat will be a perfectly pristine feather just kind of laying there, like almost like it's presented for me.
Hmm.
Um,
Wow.
there was another time where there was a feather that I questioned. I was like, I don't really know if that's my sign because it was just like on the sidewalk. And then that night we went out to a restaurant and my son was like climbing by the window and he's banging the window in this restaurant and right by where he was banging the window there was a feather pressed onto the
Oh,
window and I was like
okay.
whoa okay like that is my sign. um and then another one, and Sylvia knows this story because this was like a huge part of our mastermind, but
Mhm.
I was watching this psychic medium show where they were talking about how you can ask for signs from loved ones who had passed away. And
Hmm.
my mother in law had passed away. And so my husband and I were talking about it, and we were like, let's ask for a disco ball because she was like super into like disco music. And we're thinking too, like, when do you ever see a disco ball? And so we asked for that sign. And a few days later, I'm going to this photo shoot, and it was in an Airbnb that I had never been to before. And I'm like walking up the driveway, and I'm blinded by this light. It was so bright. And I'm going like this, and I get up to the house, and on the front porch was a disco ball,
Oh,
and the
wow.
sun was hitting it, and it was like blinding me. And I was just laughing because I'm like, that's so like my mother-in-law. Like she would, like she would be like
Mhm.
laughing. And so anyhow, I had told the girls in the mastermind about that. And so everyone's like, well, we're just going to make our sign a disco ball. And I swear we like manifested the disco ball trend because after that, we started seeing it everywhere. Like people are having birthday parties
Yeah.
with disco balls and bachelorette parties. And I feel like I see disco balls every day now. So I feel like we totally
Yeah,
manifested that.
that's funny
Yeah.
because I went to a party on Saturday and there was a disco ball.
Yeah, see? It's
That's funny.
yeah, it's everywhere. I think
Um,
everyone should try it.
Yeah, it's a
yeah,
great
it puts you
song.
in a good mood also.
Yeah.
So yeah, so something else I wanted to ask about, really important. So you talk a lot about subliminal and of
Hmm.
course affirmation. It goes with manifestation. So in your app, I didn't know, I think I didn't know really about affirmation because I wasn't expecting that. So you said that you can listen to 900 or 1000 affirmation in an hour. And I
Yeah.
was like, how is that going to be possible? I started listening. And after, of course, I listened to what you said before you explain what it is.
Hmm.
And you can only hear the music, right? You
Hmm.
don't really hear the FM. So can you explain
Yeah.
for me?
Yeah.
Because this is the
So,
first time,
right. I know a
yeah, I
lot of
hear that.
people aren't aware of subliminals. Subliminal
Yeah.
means below the threshold of consciousness. So, like in the subliminal audios that I have, the conscious part of your mind will hear relaxing, usually meditation music or nature sounds, and the subconscious can hear these subliminal messages that are embedded in the audio. And then I speed them up and I loop them. So that's how you can hear
Mm,
so many.
okay.
And the way that this all came about was when I worked in the corporate world. I worked for my first job was with the biggest global brand in the world. I won't say their name, but that's when I first learned that big corporations use and have used subliminals since like the 50s
Yeah.
in their advertising to persuade people to change their behavior. So if you're watching an ad for a drink and you start feeling thirsty, there's a reason for that. Like they actually put these triggers in there that will have a physical reaction in your body to make you thirsty. And so I remember thinking, okay, like if these companies are doing that to basically like trick people into buying their product, couldn't they be used in a positive way where you can trick yourself into thinking
Mm,
more positively and to not be so negative all the time? And so I started looking into all the studies. There's been a ton of studies and research on it. And I found out you absolutely can. And so the way it works is you have the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. And we think that our conscious mind is like running the show when in reality your subconscious is in control of like
yeah.
95% of your life.
Mm,
So it's like, when you're driving and you kind of like zone out and start daydreaming, but
Mhm.
you arrive at your
mm,
destination safely. That was because your subconscious took over on autopilot and just knew like the route and knew how, like your subconscious just basically keeps you alive. Just like you don't have to think about breathing or about your heart beating, your subconscious takes care of all of that. So the subconscious takes in every second, I want to say I'm like forgetting the number now. It's like 11 billion bits of information every second, where your
wow.
conscious mind only takes in 1 to 200 bits of information. So in your environment right now, like we're only consciously seeing a very small sliver of what's actually here and around us. And your subconscious takes in all of this stuff and then decides what the what's going to be processed for the conscious mind. So it chooses that based on what you kind of like tag as important. So the things you
Mhm.
focus on, the things you think about all the time, the things that, you're noticing all the time. So if you're always talking about and focused on negative situations, your subconscious mind is like actively looking for negative things in your environment to show you. If
Oh.
you're always focused on positive things and things always work out for you and like you're so lucky, your subconscious is always going to be looking for these like positive, happy, lucky, things to process. So most of us, just based off of how we're conditioned, like in our society, there's so many limiting beliefs, especially around like money and wealth and things like that, not feeling like you're enough, like you're good enough.
Mhm.
And that is
Yeah.
part of that whole corporate subliminal. Like they prime people to feel like they're not enough, so that way they can sell you a product that's going to make you feel like you're enough.
Mhm.
So to break up that conditioning, I've basically created these subliminals, because the only way to rewire your subconscious as an adult, or really past the age of 7, is through repetition. And so that's why subliminals are great, because you can hear these positive messages over and over and over again without driving yourself crazy, because it's not going through your conscious mind, it's just going through your subconscious. So you're basically training your subconscious to look for these things that make you feel like you're confident, and knowing that you're enough and you're worthy of everything you desire. And, I mean, there's all different kinds of subliminals, but that's really the purpose of it, is to break up all that negative conditioning and limited thinking and replace it with more positive thinking, so that you start noticing all these opportunities, because they've always been there and they're here right now. But if you're blocked off on them and you're only focused on this thing over here, you're going to miss all these opportunities that are right in front of you. But once your subconscious knows, like, hey, wealthy, money, abundance, happiness, confidence, all of a sudden it starts picking up on these opportunities. And it's not that they weren't there before, you just never noticed them. And so, and it works pretty quickly too. I mean, you can really start to shift things. Just listening to like one subliminal a day has a pretty big impact.
Oh yeah, I will. Already started. I will.
It's
And I like
easier than affirmations too, right? That you have to repeat
Oh,
a
yeah.
lot of things. So
Well, it's
just
like,
just
imagine
listen to it.
saying 1,000 affirmations, or like writing 1,000 affirmations. It would
Oh my
take you
God.
like an entire year probably, but you're
Yeah,
getting
because
that in one audio.
you're just listening to some music and you don't know what's going on. So I
Hmm.
think I
Mm-hmm.
really like the concept. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. You could listen while you're sleeping, and it's like you
Yeah.
are literally, manifesting while you sleep, or play it in the background while you're working. And
Hmm.
you don't, like, that's the thing. You don't have to do anything. It's actually better if you don't consciously try to do anything, because you want your conscious mind to kind of get out of the way and let your subconscious take all that in. So it really, it's like, I call it like the ultimate manifesting hack, because it's
Yeah.
so easy,
Yeah. Use it when you're meditating too. Like I told you that I use it for when I'm meditating. It's so like the
Mhm.
very calming song, music.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know what is in there, but I know I'm listening to it, and it just helps with my meditation. It's just like two things together that is just working very
Yeah.
well. So,
Well, I put like those theta waves in there as well. And theta waves are what you experience like right before you fall asleep, or right when you wake up. So it's when your subconscious is the most open to suggestion, but it's also good for like a deep meditative state. So there's all kinds of good vibes that will leave you feeling really good too, just leave you like, you're like, oh, like I just feel like I could do anything.
Yeah.
oh
That's
yeah,
great. Yeah,
yeah,
I recommend that to everybody to do that, seriously.
yeah.
Because
Because I
that's,
never knew about it before
yeah,
until I
me
met
neither.
Stephanie.
Never heard
Yeah.
about that before. It
That's
should
So,
be more, yeah, it should be more talk about this kind of thing.
mm-hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, we got to
yeah.
spread the news and the good vibe.
Yeah.
So, Stephanie, just I think one more question. I don't know if Eric has another one, but my last question is:
Mhm.
so, what do you recommend people, like women, get out of the limiting beliefs, and like what apart from affirmations? I mean, the subliminals. What else do you recommend them working on to kind of get out of that funk of not being able to move forward?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so definitely the subliminals, like everyone should just start there. But I am also really big on writing things out, journaling.
Mm,
Um,
yeah.
and I feel like I like to write things out. I don't like to type things out, because I feel like it's just different. Like I think you access more of your heart chakra, and you're just, I feel like information just flows through you. So a lot of times when you're writing things out, you'll notice things that you didn't know before. Like some things that are on the subconscious mind will come out in your writing that you may be completely oblivious to. So there may be certain things that are holding you back, or certain things that you're feeling or experiencing that you didn't even realize because you've kind of consciously put a block up or a wall up. And so when you can journal things out and you become aware of these things, they lose their power over you. You know, like it's like when you have awareness, you're sort of like sanitizing it, you're shedding light on it, and it can't hold its grip and its power over you if you have that
Okay.
awareness. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
if you just go through life and you're always having these negative thoughts and you're not even aware of it, you're never going to change it. But the second you start to realize, it's like you start catching yourself. And then once you start to have that awareness and catch yourself, then you can make the conscious choice to choose a better thought or a better action or another path. So it's really kind of like that first step in uncovering like what even is holding you back. Because I guarantee most people don't even know they have any blocks or negative beliefs or limiting thinking. And
Yeah.
so bringing awareness to it is going to help solve that problem like way quicker than anything else.
Yeah, I have just a quick question about. I think everybody knows about that now, but I thought when I listened to your app, I thought that was really interesting about digital visual board. Where to
Yeah.
start? Do you do that on Canvas, or can you do it like somewhere else?
Yeah, so I love using Pinterest for that. My daughter actually like got me super
Pinterest.
into that because she does a vision board every single month in Pinterest. But Pinterest is great because it's so visual. So you can like
Yeah.
search for all kinds of quotes or words or images. And I'll typically like do that and just kind of fill up a vision board with all kinds of things. And then after that, I'll download all the images onto my computer, and then I go into Canva, and they call it collages. So you can just type in collage
Yeah.
Oh,
and
okay.
then
Didn't know about that.
upload all those images into a collage. And what I do, like once I have the collage all made, is I download it and then I save it as my screensaver on my phone.
Oh.
So that way, like, even though I'm not consciously like looking at my vision board all day, every time I go on my phone, my subconscious is seeing my vision board and it's priming my subconscious that, like, hey, I want all of these things. So go look for
Yeah.
the opportunity to make it happen.
Interesting. Yeah.
So yeah, I like that. It's just more convenient than like a physical board.
Yeah.
Okay.
Easier to make it as well, right? Instead of
Yeah.
like having
Yeah.
to print out pictures and
Yeah.
Right. And you
cutting
can
them.
update it frequently too if you want to.
I don't know if I'm ready to replace my kids with my vision board, but I guess I have to do it.
Maybe you can put them in your vision board and then
Yes.
you still have your kids there, but you also have your goals.
Yeah.
I don't want no more kids, so
No more kids. Yeah, yeah.
I'm done
Same
with this.
here. I had two psychics ask me if I was pregnant or planning on becoming pregnant. And I was like,
Oh boy.
no, why? Why? Like, don't say that. And they're like, are you sure? I
You
was like,
sure?
yeah, I'm really sure. Now I'm like very concerned.
Oh
You
my
need to
God.
send some vibe.
Oh yeah.
I think
I've got
because
my
you
hands full.
worked with the fertility subliminals. I remember you mentioned that, like, please do not. I'm making this,
Yeah.
but I don't want.
I know, because
Not
people
for me.
kept asking me for a fertility subliminal, and I'm like, I don't want to do that because I don't want to like put that in my subconscious.
Yeah.
So I made it, but I made it like really quick. And then I kept telling myself, not for me, for other people, not for me,
Not
for
for
other
me.
people.
Not for me.
We'll
Well,
find
that was
out
Yeah,
yeah.
in the future, right?
hopefully not.
Well, we out of time, so that was my last question. But I think we would love for you, if you can come back one day, maybe in the future.
Yeah,
because I think we had
absolutely.
like 1,000 million more questions. So I'm sure our listener will they're gonna want to hear more for sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
would love to. Thank you so much for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome.
All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening. Bye, everyone. Take care.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye bye.